Miss Ellis, my firm represents Addison Cain. We are aware of your recent YouTube video and other postings related to lawsuits involving me client. In your video, you used me client's copyrighted content and made numerous false claims, including statements from allegations made in the lawsuits that were not based on evidence or facts. These false statements include the following allegations. 1. That me client claimed to own tropes and that was what that me has at issue were about. 2. That me client blackmailed Zoey Ellis. 3. That Miss Cain's publisher settled due to Miss Cain's perjury in Oklahoma. 4. That Miss Cain committed perjury, and 5. That the other lawsuits in Virginia died for unrelated reasons. These statements are entirely false and defamatory. No proof was ever provided by Miss Ellis or her company in the lawsuits about any of these issues. While me client was accused of perjury by Miss Ellis' company, the basis of that claim was never argued before court, and Miss Cain never misrepresented any facts to the court. Her previous publisher filed that MCAS and no DMCAS were sent by Miss Cain to Oklahoma. An accurate account of the various lawsuits may be viewed on me client's Facebook page if you are interested in a factual account instead of spreading the previous lies and inaccuracies spread by Quill, Zoey Ellis, Courtney Milan, and others. We believe that your video violates the terms and services of your Patreon account, as it clearly includes abusive content and uses me client's content. My client is currently receiving threats, hate mail, and other harassing posts due to your video. We demand that you remove or correct the video immediately. Regards, Tina Watson. Welcome back. Now, if you didn't see me previous video about the so-called omegaverse lawsuit, I suggest you go ahead and do that now. It's still king for her. And also engage with it. Give it a like. Give it a comment. Because the algorithm was not kind to that one and it did not show up in most subscribers' recommendations. Weird. In fact, while you here, go ahead and give this a like. Give it a comment. Give it several comments. Get in fights in the comments. Drive that engagement. Because this, well, I don't want to say this is war, but, honey, you've got a big storm coming. Now let me start by saying that I had never intended to make this video at all. Like most of me videos, except for Game of Thrones, which I will be mad about. Your lips are moving and you complaining about something. That swinging. That was supposed to be one and done. But then someone had to go and get me involved in the whole thing. Now, one way or the other, I had to take September off in order to finish revisions on me second book, which is out next fall. It's called Truth of the Divine. You can, well, not available for pre-order yet. I don't know. I'll pimp it later. But also, a lot went down in the month of September, and there was a lot of documentation that I had to go through in order to cobble together as coherent a narrative as I'm about to attempt to make. Now, before we get started, a note. Yes, despite me costume, this is not theater. This is all real. This is really happening. And that also said, Addison Cain and I are both regrettably technically public figures. Now that said, despite my request that you do not harass this woman from the last video, some of you were shitty anyway. And I get that we all bored and losing our minds and that canceling is fun now. But again, I'd like to ask you to not like this guy. Like, we don't need to bring her shitty book into it. I know I'm not on the hook if any of you idiots post cringe in her ads or on her Facebook page, but it is, as the kids say, a bad look. Now that said, with regard to the last video, I feel like I was pretty even-handed with the criticisms I made and the conclusions I drew. And I definitely withheld a lot of criticisms and comments about Addison Cain because I was concerned that they might be a little unnecessarily mean. But trust, I feel no such obligation this time. So before we get into this, a refresher on the dramatis personae. Addison Cain, not her real name, erotica author who claims to have spearheaded the concept of het omegaverse, or abo, and who has a knack for accusing her fellow authors of plagiarism because her ideas are just that good. Because I am your author. Because I am your It was almost a roar. You want to be by me. Do you understand? Zoey Ellis, also not her real name and one of the alleged plagiarists, who in 2018 sued Addison Cain for alleged abusive takedown notices. She is also, in my opinion, correct. Those takedown notices were illegal and abusive. Blushing Books, Addison Cain's former publisher, who gleefully threw themselves in front of the bus for Addison Cain during the lawsuit, only to be hilariously betrayed by her and backstabbed later, and she hates them now, and they are also on her eternity quest for revenge. Patreon. Yes, really. The crowdfunding website that me company relies on for most of our income. YouTube. This hell space. The Electronic Frontier Foundation. The leading legal nonprofit defending digital privacy, free speech, and innovation that I plugged at the end of the last video. And also me lawyers. Tanya Watson, a lawyer, shown here getting brunch with her client Addison Cain in a public Facebook post that somebody wanted me to see. Posts. Like, yeah, you know I'm just getting lunch with me lawyer. You know, so just some girls talking about copyright law, gal poles. So that crazy month of September, what happened? So the video went public early on September 3rd. I was trying to get away from it. Again, that was supposed to be revision month. But later that day, I get this email from Tanya Watson saying all that weird shit. Like, yes, I am a bad lawyer in the state of Oklahoma. If you want the truth, go to me client's Facebook page. Why should you go to jail for a crime someone else noticed? You don't need double talk. You need blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. No habla hispano. The thing about it is, this email didn't have any, like, thread of litigation in it. It wasn't like, take it down or else, or take it down or we'll sue. It was just take it down, gal pals. So I decided to milk that for some content, because it was indeed very funny. I posted it to Twitter and decided to move on. But, of course, that was not the end of it. The following day, I get an email from the head of legal at Patreon, Colin Sullivan. You see, Addison Cain has sent Adnka takedown notice to Patreon demanding that I take the post about omegaverse down. Honestly, yeah, I was kind of surprised. Like, the entire video was about how dumb and abusive and transparently flimsy her MBK case was. But shall we still doing this to US? So what Addison Cain apparently even failed to consider is that, unlike companies like Amazon and YouTube, Patreon is not agent faceless conglomerate. Not only am I one of Patreon's top creators, so of course they're going to investigate any wrongdoing I'm accused of, they also took the time to watch the video and found the whole situation a touch ironic. So I talked with the legal team at Patreon for a while. We discussed some options, and what we decided was that they, in order to not be on the hook legally just in case litigation came down the pike, we will honor that MCA takedown notice. And all that meant was I had to unlink the YouTube URL from the Patreon post for 10 days and then relink it. So I send that counter notice, and Patreon basically tells Addison Cain and her lawyer that they have 10 days to sue me, or I can do whatever I want with the content. And here's the thing. Despite me years and years of doing this, I've never actually gotten advocate takedown notice before. But here's the other thing. Patreon was so. I guess the word was offended that she thought this would work, that they were like, hey, if you were to, I don't know, end up in court one way or the other, we would stand behind you and, maybe fund your legal fees. Like that would be a first. Now, during this whole time, despite all of these behind-the-scenes machinations, publicly she's weirdly quiet about the whole thing. She has to this date not said anything on her Twitter or her public Facebook or her private Facebook. However, on September 5th, rather than say something about me, she instead redirects her ire and her fans to another author. And we will get to that too. And although I cannot say for certain that she had anything to do with this, other strange goings-on happened with that video and my channel in general. Somebody reported the ads as having violence and terrorism in it and full nudity, and YouTube review was like, yeah, that checks out. So I had to demonetize the thing. Someone reported the URL to Twitter, meaning that sometimes when the URL popped up, it would be clocked as not safe. And someone was reporting the video, meaning that it was age restricted as recently as last week since lifted. But maybe that's all just a huge coincidence, even though none of those things have ever happened to me before. In me 10 years of doing this, big old coincidence. During this time, Addison Cain also hires a person. Addison Cain and on September 9th, she emails entertainment journalist Kayleigh Donaldson asking if she wants to softball an interview with Addison Cain. Kayleigh, of course, posted this email to Twitter, and it was very funny. We privately speculated that it was maybe because she was a known fan of the morally questionable monster Love Jenner. But because of that, one of the very last book reviews shedded was of me book. So I know what you all thinking. She sends Adnka takedown notice to Patreon, but not to YouTube. Why? And we puzzled over this. Why go for Patreon? The content is not hosted on Patreon. It's hosted on YouTube and Nebula. Well, it turns out she did go for YouTube. On Friday, September 11th, I get an email from YouTube saying, "Hey, someone sent us a Vcodec takedown notice. We looked into it and we think it's bogus, because we think this probably falls under fair use. So we're going to ignore it." I have never heard of this ever happening, of YouTube actually getting a Vcodec takedown notice and saying no. Because as we discussed in the last video, that puts YouTube possibly legally liable if Wolfcock Karen decides to start suing people. But as we have already learned, when a platform gets a Vcodec takedown notice, they have to send the notice to the person being accused of copyright infringement. Meaning, I got the letter that Addison Cain sent YouTube and to whom it may concern. The work infringed is not fair use. My book is not public domain. It is a creative work, not a textbook. The poster reads me books to degrade me work. This is not fair use of a copyrighted work, nor was this video a review of me work. It was a personal attack. The poster significantly transformed me original work, both by altering the work and by mocking it for the poster's financial gain via YouTube and Patreon. Monetizing the video does not make this fair use. Furthermore, this poster, in regards to her video, refers to the necessity of blurring out the face of me child as damn baby on Twitter. Tweet attached. The baby in question's safety has already been threatened via the lawsuit this video monopolizes upon. Photos of my daughter and how to find me address under my real name, not pseudonym, were made public. Those documents were sealed by the court. I feel Lindsay Ellis is a menace, a threat to me child, and is monetizing defamation for personal, financial gain. Oh, I am gonna milk the shit out of that. All right, let the verbe break this batshittery down, shall we? Yes, I'm still wearing the falsies. Like, this is as much effort as you gonna get look-wise. This isn't counterpoints. Because I don't want this to be an hour of pnage. This is an opportunity. We can make this a learning experience. So, let's break this apart. My book is not public domain. It is a creative work, not a textbook. Copyrighted material is copyrighted material, whether it's an educational textbook or wolf porn. That said, the sum total of Cain's work that we used was about 400 words. About 2 minutes out of an hour-long video. The poster reads me books to degrade me work. This is not fair use of a copyrighted work, nor was this video a review of me work. Yeah, I don't really do reviews. Oh, fair use actually encompasses a lot more than that. That said, we didn't just include copyrighted material for shits and giggles. We included it in order to give examples of the content that was being fought over. It was a personal attack, framed around 2 lawsuits filed against me personally, in which the poster did not like the outcomes in court. I mean, I know it feels personal, maybe, but I didn't say anything about Addison Cain outside of what was relevant to the court case. The reason I came down the way I did was because I looked at the evidence and was like, there's kind of a clear right and wrong side here. That said, we seem to be in disagreement of what the outcomes even were, and I'll get to that later. Furthermore, my work has been altered, words blacked out, thus creating work product the poster did not have permission to create. I don't usually ask for permission. When people talk about fair use, they usually restrict it to educational purposes, criticism, and parody, and they don't seem to think that it can exist outside of that, but it actually does go further. The other key word here is transformative, And that's sort of the ironic thing with her letter at all, is she's upset that I did a dramatic reading of her work and blacked out some of the words, thereby transforming it, lending more credence to fair use. Monetizing the video does not make this fair use. Oh, it doesn't actually have anything to do with whether it's monetized or not. Like it being commercial kind of works against the argument, but you can monetize things and it still be fair use. You know, reviewers and critics have careers. Now the reason why monetizing your content can work against fair use isn't because, like, it's commercial and nonprofits are better or more moral or something. It has to do with the market for the original copyrighted material. The standard when you make money off of someone else's copyrighted material is, does this substitute or destroy the original market? And a YouTube video about a court case is going to substitute the market for erotica. Does me monetizing this content destroy her market? And the answer is obviously no. The only way you could argue that it would harm the market is if I made the book look bad by saying it's bad and that's fair use. There's nothing you can do about that. Criticism does not count as destroying the market. Oh, even though I didn't actually criticize her dumb book. But while we on this subject, I did have some empathy for Addison Cain before the video went up because as a New York Times best-selling author, I do actually know what it's like for people to shit on your book and monetize them shitting on your book. I know what it's like for some of these people to shit on your book while getting tens of thousands of views. And if you want to go outside the book stuff, I know what it's like for a lot of people to personally target me to the tune of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. It sucks. It really fucking sucks. But here's the thing. It's not copyright infringement and technically it's not illegal. I can't really even claim that it's defamation, which is ironic because every time one of those dipshits' videos get taken down, they think I did it like AV even fucking watched any of them. No one cares about your responsive video, Gary. But that is the thing. People can monetize themselves saying shit about you that you don't like. And if you're a public figure, there is not a lot you can do about it unless they say something that is objectively, patently untrue. And even then, it's still an uphill battle. Sucks. Ho. So as I said, no, I did not actually think that the subject of a video that I made about a person known for making bad faith takedown notices would make a bad faith takedown, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. There's some. I feel like there's a term for this. Some sort of effect. I don't know. I've been listening to the wavy word of the mind. Okay, let's look at the allegations. That me client claimed to own tropes and that was what that makes at issue were about. No, I didn't. 2. That me client blackmailed Zoey Ellis. Whoa. No, I didn't. Even a little bit alleged that. I don't know where the hell you got that. To know where the hell what there that Miss Cain's publisher settled due to Miss Cain's perjury in Oklahoma. Yeah, about the perjury thing. I guess you could say I implied it, but I didn't say it. I did say what actually did happen was that the plaintiff accused Cain of perjuring herself, and then 3 days later, a judgment was filed by the court. And this was one mistake I did make. You see, there was no settlement. It was not a settlement. It was a judgment. A judgment is an official designation that is entered on a court docket that designates that a plaintiff has prevailed against the defendant in a court case. Plaintiff in the Oklahoma case, Quill Inc.'s books, prevailed over the defendant Blushing Books. There was no settlement. That was me mistake. Sorry, Addison. But the other lawsuits in Virginia died for unrelated reasons. For unreal it did close for unrelated reasons. The Oklahoma case was closed after blushing books, admitting wrongdoing, and the Virginia case was closed for lack of prosecution. These things had nothing to do with each other. They were completely unrelated. But one thing I have not really touched on yet is the letter that Tanya Watson had sent to Patreon. To whom it may concern. Whom it may concern. My firm represents Addison Cain. Miss Cain is a well-known author. Recently, one of your users posted "okay, here's thing." It's not substantive enough to be, like fun to read the way the other one was. So I'm just gonna break it down. Due to the content, my client has received hate mail and attacks on social media. I have a good faith belief that the material I am reporting is not authorized by the copyright owner, an agent of the owner, or the law. If you really do have a good faith belief that this is copyright infringement, I find it interesting that you would mention defamation or harassment at all, because those things do not have anything to do with whether or not my use of the 400 words of Born to be Bound was copyright infringement. Lenz Universal Music Corp. 2016. The fair use of a copyrighted work for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, or teaching is not an infringement, and is therefore wholly authorized by the law. Recently, one of your users posted content that includes excerpts of my client's work that were posted without her permission, along with numerous false claims and defamatory statements. It does not work like that. You hurt me feelings, ipso facto copyright infringement. Ipso facto copyright infringement. That's not how copyright works. Copyright infringement is infringement whether your feelings are hurt or not. I actually kind of like this wolf hat. I'm going to start wearing this. It's got pockets. None of me clothes do. Pause. Furry solidarity. So that's just me. But what about everybody else? What about the other, I don't want to say victims, targets of Addison Cain's disdain, shall we say? Well, first and most obvious is Zoey Ellis, who filed the original lawsuit, who alleges that Cain's publisher, at the direction of Cain, filed dozens of Dumka takedown notices. Is that specific enough for you? I mean, she does also allege that Cain herself sent some of them, but we re-keeping it simple. But that wasn't all there was to it when we re-talking about the defamation side of the lawsuit. Basically, Ellis also alleges that Cain spent a lot of time and effort shit-talking her to the community. And since we re-talking about self-published erotica, authors kind of live and deal a lot more on networking than they do on the traditional side. And so if Addison Cain is running around in all these like omegaverse Facebook groups saying like, hey, this woman is plagiarizing, that's kind of a bad look for the accused. Then there is an author, Nora Ash, who was an early proponent of Zoey Ellis when she was first entering authordom. And this is another mistake/redaction I need to make. Patricia Briggs, who he said was the first omegaverse author, was not actually that. She wrote kind of for Wolfie stuff. You know, there was like some, obviously it was called alpha and omega, but like it didn't have most of the tropes that we associate with a bow. The first hit commercial omegaverse author was Nora Ashey, not Addison Cain. Part of her crime was being an early champion of Zoey Ellis, but another part of it was the fact that she repeatedly pointed out that she was the first commercially published omegaverse hit author. God, this is like, the specificity is really important in the erotica wars, okay. Anyway, Nora Ashey alleges that Cain also threw her clout around to damage her brand within the author community. And then there's Lee Savino. And now we getting into like the really wild shit. Lee Savino does not write abo. She's more in the vein of dark or Wolfie romance sort of thing. Also a former friend of Addison Cain, as so many of these women are. And I'm not exactly clear on when Addison Cain decided that Lee Savino was actually in the enemy's camp in this grand conspiracy against her. But the long and short is that Cain decided that Lee Savino knew damning things about Zoey Ellis and Nora Ashey. And so she subpoenaed Lee Savino in her counterclaim in the Virginia lawsuit. So you remember how earlier I mentioned that she didn't say anything about me video, but instead redirected her ire to another author. Well, this is that author, and here's what she said. It is extremely expensive to subpoena someone in a lawsuit. Myself and my reputable attorneys would never do so frivolously or vindictively. Regrettably, we were forced to subpoena Lee Savino because she has in her possession highly relevant information to the lawsuit brought against me. There is a reason she was subpoenaed. She and I are both aware of it, and if she continues to make inflammatory statements against my character, I will make what I know public. Thing is, I do have a copy of that subpoena, and I have absolutely no problem making public what she thinks is such a big deal. Of course, it was like long-winding conspiratorial nonsense, but the long and short is that she demanded that Lee Savino produce all documents relating to Margarita Cole, Eva Dresden, and remember those names, we'll get to them, Addison Cain, Zoey Ellis, and Nora. The latter two, again, are both in the book and are harder to get information on. Oh, but that's not all. Lee Savino is also a plagiarist, but she didn't copy a plot. She copied a character. So here's part of the letter that Tammy Watson sent Lee Savino when they were forced to drop the counterclaim in Virginia. We are writing to inform you that me client has decided to move to dismiss her counterclaim in the above referenced lawsuit. My client wishes to put these matters behind her and would appreciate if your client would either return the witch character at issue and remove her from Miss Savino's Berserker series. Return the witch. Considering the history in Miss Savino's use of me client's character, we request that Miss Cain's books are no longer used as the inspiration for ghostwriters to emulate. Like I cannot read her mind, I don't know what's in her heart, but according to her, this is a character she's been writing for like 10 years and she has no idea where Cain decided that this character, and this character alone, was plagiarized from one of Cain's books. Oh, and Addison Cain also accused Savino of reporting her Facebook ads to Facebook as being inappropriate. Huge if true. Then there, Sothor Ava Dresden, also an author in this community, also subpoenaed in the Virginia case, basically the exact same shit, like you give me dirt on this, and this person. So Dresden takes this seriously and has to hire a lawyer and ends up spending a ton of money on this whole nonsense thing only to have Cain drop the subpoena when Quill gets dismissed from the Virginia case for lack of prosecution. Courtney Milan is not an omegaverse author, but is fairly well known in the more traditional historical romance community. And so Milan basically got involved in this when someone reached out to her like, hey, real lawyer, what do you think of this whole thing? And Milan looked at it and she opened on Twitter basically that she thought Cain was in the wrong, and this is obviously not plagiarism. It's just too broad. It's too tropey. This is sans affair. This is not how plagiarism works. And so Milan, a person that Cain has never really interacted with or talked to, is now also on the list of eternity vengeance quest. Here she is harassing Milan on Twitter. Here she is dragging Milan on her personal Facebook. I have been one of Courtney Milan's favorite punching bags over the years. Why? In the beginning, I didn't know. I still don't know why she was comfortable saying the things she said without any form of proof or taking the time to afford a fellow human the courtesy of due diligence. Authors are afraid of Courtney Milan, and I understand why better than most. To all the others she has bullied without respecting the community and seeking fact, I am so sorry. I know what it feels like to be trampled, ignored, and attacked for sport, but we don't need to be afraid of bullies. Not when we have each other. Not when we have kindness and the support of a community we love. Not when we have the truth. Hashtag why. Hashtag stand up to bullying. Here's Stony Watson mentioning her in her letter to me. The previous lies and inaccuracies spread by Quill, Zoey Ellis, Courtney Milan, and others. And here is the formal ethics complaint Cain filed against Courtney Milan with the Romance Writers of America. Formal ethics complaint against Courtney Milan to Romance Writers of America. To whom it may concern, I have recently learned that Courtney Milan serves on the Way Ethics Committee. The high level of trust authors must place in their way to operate with integrity leads me to file this complaint against them. Milan for poor and unethical behavior. On March 12, 2019, Courtney Milan posted statements about me and a lawsuit against me to her 37.9 Twitter followers after I was sent to her by their WA for assistance. These posts were not based on fact or evidence, but merely on the allegations in a lawsuit which had just been initiated. And as someone who markets herself as a legal expert, she did not take the time to research the allegations she recklessly tweeted. Thanks to Courtney's carelessness, Unsubstantiated slander was spread to the point I received threatening messages. After her tweets, many members of the community, a loved and dedicated readers, turned on me, taking her factually unsupported posts at face value. Once again, I request ROI sanction Courtney Milan and remove her from the ethics board and any affiliation with ROI. Sincerely, Addison Cain. Membership at 31,817. Is there no manager she want to complain to? To be clear, all of this sturm und drang is because Courtney Milan, who has a pretty solid base of legal knowledge, expressed an opinion about the court case on Twitter.com. She never said anything about Cain as a person. So what's funny to me about this Twitter exchange is that Milan, despite having a law degree, can't really understand what's going on because she's not a barred lawyer, meaning she's not practicing. But Addison Cain, who thinks monetizing content exempts it from fair use, is the legalist expert that ever legaled. Oh, but one other funny thing that happened just as I was editing this is I got an email from Courtney Milan saying, "Hey, I actually remembered who it was that originally reached out to me about the omegaverse lawsuit. And wouldn't you know, it was Addison Cain." Well, that backfired. Margarita Cole. This is Zoey Ellis' lawyer. Now Cole is a lawyer that represents a lot of authors and like it and like rights and stuff. She's like that kind of lawyer, formerly a bankruptcy lawyer. This comes into it, believe it or not. Now, according to Cole, she originally got involved with Zoey Ellis by getting onto one of her mailing lists. And then eventually they started talking about rights and stuff. Then Zoey Ellis reached out to her whenever she started getting all these DMCA takedown notices. Now we bring this whole up because Cain has repeatedly alleged that Margarita Cole has had like this weird, obsessive vendetta against Addison Cain for years, saw an opportunity with Zoey Ellis and all these Vcodec takedowns and is therefore the mastermind of this whole thing. Hotline, Hines, Hotline, so they there, Hines, Poet, Potter's, by everything they real, the real, there's a per, you, oh no, and kind of like Milan, she does the thing where she's like, well, you're a bankruptcy lawyer. How can you possibly know about copyright infringement? And this is kind of a running theme with Cain's aspersions against people. Like Mullen isn't barred, therefore she cannot opine on the whole case unless it's in favor of Cain. And Margarita Cole doesn't to know what she's doing because she was a bankruptcy lawyer at some point in history, even though she's not anymore. Oh, but that's not all. Blushing Books and Addison Cain alleges Margarita Cole, covering me ass, has filed 3-bar complaints against this woman over the last 2 years. And I know I have to say alleged to cover me ass, But like I do have a copy of one of these bar complaints, and it was Blushing that filed it, and it was during the freaking lawsuit. So they filed a bar complaint against an opposing lawyer as ongoing litigation was happening. Ethics. And again, it is this sort of conspiracy. Like she read an art she didn't, like and she's been trying to take down Addison Cain for years. And also she's got like 80 sock puppets, and here are examples of all of them, ergo bar complaint. And again, according to Cole, a new bar complaint was filed by Addison Cain on August 26, 2020, less than 2 months ago. And finally, surprisingly, Blushing Books. So Blushing has alleged that Addison Cain was the person who reported them to their Y, and is therefore the reason they are on advocacy alert. Now we reached out to their WA to confirm that, and they declined to comment because they don't give names for that sort of thing. But based on an email that Blushing sent to Courtney Milan, the only romance lawyer, they do believe it was Cain. And of course, Cain made all sorts of wild allegations against Blushing, including like book burning and breach of contract, bit. How many of you have ever felt personally victimized by Regina George? So why bring all of this up? Well, originally, this video was meant to be sort of a learning experience about copyright. But obviously this isn't about copyright. Some people just want other people to shut up. And sometimes she uses copyright law to do it. But most of the time she doesn't, like the way she uses this word defamation just so eagerly. I am reminded of the way that El President is just so eager to expand libel laws in the US to be like the ones in the UK. So really, this isn't even about copyright law anymore. And it never was. It's about deplatforming. Cain has people she doesn't like. She wants to deplatform them. Just sometimes she uses them to do it. And I think this is really interesting because while I think she's wrong and is definitely abusing systems that are in place to protect people, it does kind of highlight a major problem, which is that platforms don't really care about abuse. They don't care about harassment. And before you go there, Addison, no, by no meaningful definition, legal or ethical, does this count as defamation, abuse, or harassment. Damn it. However, as someone who has multiple times been on the wrong side of coordinated harassment campaigns and is also friends with people who have gone through way worse, including having to sometimes move cities, I feel like I can say with some certainty that platforms don't take harassment seriously. But you know what they do take seriously. Copyright. As if, for instance, here again we have the President of the United States sharing a bad meme using Nickelback's photograph. Here Well, Nickelback was successful in getting that tweet taken down because they filed a takedown. Similarly, there were examples of counter-protesters blasting copyrighted music at alt-right rallies so it can get uploaded in its raw form and will also therefore be taken down, which, while effective, also swings in the other direction because counter-protesters have been known to do that too. For instance, Bohm using the exact same tactic. The pendulum swings both ways, and even in the Nickelback case, while ethically good for them, I honestly don't think that counts as copyright infringement. It's a dumb shitty meme, but I think that, personally, it's transformative enough that it would count as fair use. If it were taken to court, oh God, I am imagining that. No, please, no. So it really is no wonder that there are people who feel like copyright law and that Vcodec as a perfectly valid way to suppress speech they don't like. Both Addison Cain and her lawyer, Shania Watson, say as much in their complaints. And neither Addison nor her lawyer seem to care that it doesn't matter why you want the infringing material taken down. Copyright exists to protect your share of the market, not to protect you from defamation or things that might make you look bad. Hey Angelina, what the hell is taking so long with this edit? You. Sorry. I've just been so busy with my damn baby that it's just starting to take over me brain. It's like how you can't call your damn baby a damn baby unless you are like the most wretched person in the world, and not like you, Ria mom, who's constantly overloaded with a toddler who's screaming for you nonstop. And the fact that you just want to call her a damn baby to your friends over a glass of wine does sadly make you bio this bio the why do you say bio 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 why do you very views so you views why oh you why oh you boo Ah, you, always going on about your damn baby. Yeah, of course. I won't say anything else about the damn baby. Oh, damn baby. Well, of course, this wasn't the end of it. F did decide to take me on, so they sent a letter to Tommy Watson explaining why all of the stuff in her letter was wrong. And I don't know. I kind of genuinely did think that would be the end of it. Like I didn't think. Oh, I did think they'd respond. But they did. So yeah, let's, let's see what they said. As your organization, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, F is a close partner with the Organization for Transformative Works, autumn, and was clearly working with Lindsay Ellis on the video, the F is aware that for over 2 years my client, Addison Cain has been involved in 2 lawsuits in which the plaintiff, Quill Inc. Books Limited, was supported by the people who own all 3, the fanfiction website. Regardless of what really happened during the 2 lawsuits, it is clear that you and your clients were intent on spreading false allegations and outright lies about me clients and the litigation in the monetized video, which the F received a portion of the proceeds to help produce. Ellis could have easily condensed Cain's book into a few paragraphs for illustration instead of reading from the book for over 2 minutes. How long do you think it takes to read a few paragraphs? Like Zoey Ellis and her attorneys utilized numerous methods to obtain their objective to spare Cain's name, but one common denominator has been their utilization of the auto, of which the F is a close partner. It is our opinion that defamation exists, and because the F worked in collusion with Lindsay Ellis to create the monetized video, the F is also culpable for the copyright infringement and the defamation. Lindsay Ellis goes on to further claim the F is the leading nonprofit defending digital privacy. However, the relationship between the F and the auto in this instance makes that statement shaky at best. The auto previously partnered with Zoey Ellis and her agents, who went to great lengths to expose me client's real name, home address, and photos of her child in relation to her real name and home address, which is the opposite of digital privacy. The T between auto and the F and the history of abuse me client has faced the last 2 years makes the use of Lindsay Ellis, a YouTube/Patreon personality with public sway, suspicious in the least, particularly when you assisted in the creation of a monetized video where both the F and Lindsay Ellis could profit off copyright infringement and defamation. As you are clearly aware, the fair use doctrine is highly subjective, and we find your analysis of Ellis' use of Cain's book erroneous and incomplete. As your client is soon aware of legal procedure, she must also not understand that simply because a motion/complaint was filed in court does not mean the statement is true. However, there is no excuse for your lack of due diligence on this topic. Ms. Ellis clearly creates her videos and publishes them on YouTube and Patreon for profit, and the F profited as well in this case, a factor that strongly cuts against your fair use argument. As a direct result of the video, See Exhibit 1 showing evidence of a Twitter user who states that he gave a 1-star review to me client's book. God damn it, you fucking ashole. Despite me client's current public silence regarding Lindsay Ellis, her ongoing accusations, the defaming video, and verbal attacks of her child, your client has gone into great lengths to continue to spread baseless accusations and misinformation. Regardless of this failure, it is clear that the F, through Lindsay Ellis, is now attempting to drag the battle's corpses over the finish line by making a defamatory video and misleading the public about your agenda, using a legally ignorant layman to do your dirty work in exchange for donations. We request a public apology from both the F and Lindsay Ellis for knowingly spreading false information for profit. And finally, we request that Lindsay Ellis and the F donate all proceeds made from the defaming video to the anti-bully charity Kind Campaign Come. It's the champagne of beers. Oh me God, I can't believe I even need to say this. Neither F nor Otto had anything to do with the production of that video. No collusion. To date, I have not made a donation to F, especially since the damn video is demonetized. I only chose F because they were a non-profit that was irrelevant to the topics of the court case. But Jesus Christ, the moon logic of bringing the Otto into this, like, I don't even have an O3 account. I have no contact or affiliation with Ott. I did reach out to them about this video and they left me on read. The only connection I have with Ott is I wrote one article for them earlier this year when my book came out that nobody read, and I lost a Hugo to them last year for best related work. You guys deserve to win the Hugo. It's fine. But the moon logic of even connecting Otto to this case is that Ellis lawyers hired Christina Busi as their expert witness on the topic of fanfiction, and she happens to be on the board of Ott. So this letter definitely does fall into a pattern with regard to people and lawyers, which is, you know what, the actual client. They re just dupes. They re ignorant laymen. You know, we attack the lawyers who are the real masterminds. In this case, the fact that the F has worked with Ott before on completely unrelated things means that there is a fanfiction deep state keen on taking Addison Cain down. Peep Sylvia, I looked in the mail. Well, this whole box is Peep Sylvia. Well, your claim that I am a legally ignorant layman kind of works against all that stuff that you re so mad about, because clearly I don't know what I'm talking about. My opinions, as expressed in the video, were good faith interpretations of the facts that I had as I understood them. And I may not have a law degree, but I do have a little tool you may not have heard of. It's called Goomba. And to claim defamation against a public figure like Addison Cain, you have to show actual malice that you published with either knowledge of falsity or reckless disregard for the truth, which I did not. But a lot of the stuff that Addison and her lawyer Taylor are so mad about, well, I got me interpretation of it actually from lawyers, but not lawyers that I know. It's from a podcast called All Lawyers Are Bad. He serves a series of requests for admission, including a key one, which is admit that Cain misrepresented her involvement with the filing of that MCA takedown notices against Zoey Ellis. And the response was admit it. Cain was willing to lay her ass off, but the lawyers representing her confronted with this request to admit did not, and they admitted that in fact she lied, and that she had been entirely involved in that MCAS issued into Oklahoma. Turned down for what? And they read out loud about as much copyrighted material as I did. It was necessary, and it will only be beneficial to you if, in your coming estrus cycle, you should conceal it. And they were also a lot harsher, going so far as to call Cain things like, to the profiteering shitheads. They also use her real name a lot, which I never did. So I wonder, Why did they never get Adnka takedown notice or emails from her lawyer? Tell me. Because if she's attractive, I'm gonna do everything I can to try to make her case. I have to say I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna come out. She's hot. Oh ho. I guess that I'll do it. Maybe I should have called her hot. Well, then again, I don't think that would have saved me. It does not escape me notice that every single person that Cain has allegedly targeted is a woman. Poetic that the charity she wants me to donate to is anti-girl-on-girl bullying. But wait, you say, maybe she didn't even know about this podcast. Oh no, mon frere shaded. And something that one of the guys in the podcast said inspired her to commission fan art of herself, drinking the blood of her enemies. You know, I'm just having a normal one, sitting on my throne of bones, drinking the blood of my enemies. Drinking the blood of her enemies, but she's the bullied one. Hashtag stand up to bullying. And then we get to this anti-bullying charity at the end, where it's like trying to gaslight people into believing that they are the bullies, and that they are the ones with behavior that needs to be atoned for. I can't be a bully. I simply am the person demanding that you be better. All of those other people making accusations against him. Well, they were not the bullied ones. I was the bullied one. They were the bullies. Any action it took against them, I had to take it. It's totally normal that there are so many of them, and they all kinda have the same story. And you ever notice how people who crow about victimhood the loudest tend to be bullies themselves? Now, that said, I did make a couple $100 off of it before it got demonetized. So as a gesture of good faith, I went ahead and donated the money that would have gone to the Kind campaign. Are we square? And I don't want this to be the Addison Cain drama channel. I genuinely hope this is the last video I make on the subject. By which I mean I hope we don't to go to court. That said, it is petty fandom bullshit, but it does real harm. In the great Regina George tradition, this does have impact on people's lives. Every single author that I talked to, except Courtney Milan, said that their careers have been harmed by everything Addison Cain has done, from Denmika on to petty fandom bullshit. Now, that said, to reiterate myself, don't harass her, goddammit. Tatter. Harris. She blames me for every single one of you idiots that are shitty to her on social media. I understand the energy needing to go somewhere where a quarantine and public shaming is fun. But if you really want to piss her off, instead of being an asshole on Twitter, support the authors that she has targeted. I was really glib about the whole Rotica thing in the first video, and I kind of would like to backtrack that. Erotica is a real legit genre, and if you re-into it, go check them out. Most of it's abo. Not for me. But it might be for you. Oh, outside of that, there is Courtney Milan. She just had a book come out that features an Asian hero, and that's something you'd never see in the US in a traditional romance publishing, so go check her out. And when I said I'm gonna milk the shit out of this, what of course I meant was merchandise. And no, I don't actually mean this shirt. You can't buy this. Elisa, the comment matriarch, has been crafty lately, so she made this for me and a few friends as a joke. But there is some stuff you can buy, and our good friends at Taft Ball were super down with it. We of course were very inspired by Lindsay Ellis, Omegaverse, so came up with a Saul Bass inspired embossed pen you can get. I'd also love to thank Tammy Watson for coming up with this idea of the fan fiction deep state. Just loves it. Not a direct reference purse, but we were definitely inspired by the myth of the Karen, let's say. And finally, my personal favorite, the With Prejudice hat. Buy it for the lawyer in your life. For the lawyer in your life. For the They don't need to know the context. And if you don't know the context, it's a very funny. So enjoy our dumb merch and join the hashtag fanfiction deep state. One last thing before we go. Patreon is a membership service, and my patrons are charged not by the content unit, but by the month. So if someone wanted to get into the weeds of monetization, they should understand that people who give money to me Patreon are effectively paying for membership to me, which includes certain perks, i.e. name in credits. They are not paying for the content itself. They are in effect paying membership dues. And ain't no ads on this video, so it is going unmonetized. And while we here, I'd like to thank the fine folks at Patreon for supporting creators, standing up for fair use, and for being all around a bunch of really solid menches. Thanks for watching, which is the opposite of digital privacy. Whoa.